It takes a lot of guts to try something new, to reach for heights you've never dreamed of, to scale a mountain that looks impossible to climb, or simply to change up your signature style, to abandon your tried and true fastball in favor of a curveball. That's exactly what Don't Nod Studios did with their latest game, Jusant. Best known for gripping, character-driven narratives like Life is Strange, Don't Nod instead tried their hand at a climbing game buoyed by interpretable narrative storytelling. And I'm happy to say that their big risk paid off, as they really knocked it out of the park with this one. Jusant just dropped today, but thanks to the folks at Don't Nod and Home Run PR, I received an early preview of the game, and I'm so excited to share my thoughts on it with all of you. Starting with the gameplay, it is delightfully smooth. It was pretty slick in the version I played back in August, but the finished product is even better. In the demo, I remember feeling frustrated early on while I was still getting a handle on the controls, and struggling to manage my stamina bar at times. I had no such difficulties this time around, and I don't think it's just because of my familiarity with the game. The controls just flow together so well, to the point where alternating between triggers to switch handholds just feels so natural. Everything from the design of the gameplay to the controller layout comes together to pull this off, to make the player feel at home shortly after firing up the game. There's some real cohesion here, as every button you push really does make it feel like you're climbing. Now, let's talk about the story. As I mentioned, the narrative is told through the environment, and seems to be highly interpretable, so I'll admit that I am shooting from the hip here a bit. But we play as an unnamed protagonist who's tasked with carrying the ballast, the cute little creature we see right here, to the top of the tower, where he hopes to find a way to restore water to the world. It's not entirely clear where our protagonist comes from, or how he acquired his ballast, but I'm looking forward to trying to figure all of that out. Anyway, at some point before the events of the game, all the water in the world went away, leaving the landscape dry and barren. Again, we're not told why, but I have my theories, and I'll be kicking those around at some point down the line here. Regardless, the disappearance of water resulted in some major changes to society and culture. Communities moved to different regions in the shadow of the tower, and climbing became an everyday part of life, as normal as driving a car might be to you and I. Along the way, the protagonist can find letters and journal entries telling the story of the decline of this climbing-based civilization. These break down into two categories: singular pieces written by a slew of characters, and those written by a young woman named Bianca. The singular pieces are great. They add a ton of depth to the game, and make you feel a little bit like an archaeologist with each one you find, as they give insight to their culture and gesture towards how things fell apart. But Bianca's are by far the most interesting, as hers tell the story of how her and a group of climbers attempted to scale the tower at some point in the past. Her tale, essentially, serves as a parallel to ours, giving us clues about the mystery behind the tower and the ballast, hints about what's coming next, and the emotional toll a journey like this must have taken on those who attempted it. Now, Bianca and the protagonist are interesting characters, but it's the ballast who steals the show. This little dude is so cute, I'm begging Don't Nod to commission some stuffed animals of this guy, because I'd love to get one for my daughters. He's incredibly useful in game too, as he has more abilities than the ones we saw in the demo, including this one, which allows the player to reach new heights by communing with ancient spirits. As far as the story goes, he's right at the center of it, as some of the journal entries speculate that other ballasts have something to do with the disappearance of water. But by far the best thing about Jusant are its environments. The game takes place across 6 chapters, each with a corresponding biome, and in each one, the gameplay changes based on the environmental hazards the player encounters. In one chapter, it's heat. In another, darkness. And towards the end, wind. Each has its own challenges, creating a nice variety of gameplay and changing up the beautiful scenery. The music is fantastic as well, and complements the game's biggest moments in some tremendous ways. This piece here, during the wind chapter, really sold the moment for me, and coalesced with the journal entries I'd found to make it clear that I was rapidly heading towards the climax. It made everything feel so grandiose and epic, and though I'd rather not show the moments that followed for fear of spoilers, I can tell you for sure that the music gets even better from there. Speaking of the ending, like so much of the rest of the game, it is beautifully interpretable. There's not a single line of dialogue in this game, but between the expressions of the protagonist and his interactions with the ballast, Don't Nod tells an excellent story here, especially at the end. Now, there were a few things about the game that left me a bit disappointed. I'm usually a huge fan of short kings, and Jusant fits that bill with a roughly 5 to 6 hour playtime, but I wish this one was just a bit longer. When I reached the win level and realized I was quickly approaching the end of the game, I got kinda bummed out, because it felt like the game had reached a tremendous flow and really evolved into something I was looking forward to playing before heading to bed each night. This, of course, speaks volumes about just how good the final product is, but it ends up feeling like you ate one Reese cup when you were hoping for two. I don't think Jusant should have been that much longer, but another chapter or two would have been nice. I'm also a bit surprised that there wasn't a chapter that combined all of the environmental hazards into one. It would have been difficult to justify narratively, but I definitely expected to see something along those lines, especially towards the end. Back to the ballast, as I said, it steals the show in every scene it's in, but it's a bit of an afterthought during the game's middle chapters, when it barely appears at all, and its assistance doesn't feel as critical. It's a major focus of the end, of course, and those parts are worth the price of admission, but I wish we'd seen more of it during the narrative center, as it would have made the climax much more emotional and all the more rewarding. Overall, I highly recommend Jusant. I think it's an excellent and unique addition to Don't Nod's catalog, and I applaud them for not only taking a risk, but pulling it off in spectacular fashion. If you'd like to check out Jusant for yourself, you can do so by following the link below to the game's Steam page. But if you'd like to watch some of it, I'll be posting a Let's Play of the game's first chapter early next week. Until then, stay tuned for more video game reviews and video game analysis. See you guys next time.